This is a 2026 Toyota Aygo X, otherwise known as one of the most efficient petrol cars in the world, currently on sale. And that's because this has been given the full hybrid treatment. It's no longer a mild hybrid like you find in many of these small cars. This one is a full self-charging hybrid, similar to what you'd find in something like a Prius, which they dominated the market with from the early 2000s. Before electric cars came along, Toyota hybrids were one of the most efficient ways to get around, and this is no exception. If you're not ready for a plug-in hybrid or a full electric car just yet, this sort of car could be for you. This segment of car often feels a little bit too strained on the motorway for long journeys, and this one promises to have a little bit more grunt to hold its own and also be super smooth around town with that new hybrid drivetrain. I think it really works. I think it fits the bill, but there is one catch, and that is the price. These start from over £20,000 and rise to nearly £30,000 here in the UK for this top-end GR Sport model. That is a lot of money, especially when Chinese brands are coming in with their EVs and also with their petrol-powered cars, and even brands emerging in the UK such as JQ, Moda and Geely that are bringing in some cars that are proving massively popular in the UK sales charts. For that sort of money, you can get a large SUV with massage seats these days. So why would you pick this? That's what I'm here to find out today. So join me on a full tour of the car as I'll walk you around it, and also I'm going to take it out on the road, give it a spin and tell you what I think. But before we do that, if you're looking to buy a new car or sell your used car, do it the easy way with my links below. CarWow will make it super easy to sell your car. Just punch in your reg, they'll give you an instant valuation. Dealers will then bid on your car, and if you accept, they'll come and collect it from your home, cash in the bank. As easy as that. And if you're looking to purchase a new car, my affiliates Players Cars Premium will be able to contact you 24/7 via WhatsApp. No need to wait around for emails. We can just help you source a car quickly and easily, as low as 6.9% finance and also free home delivery. So what are you waiting for? If you're looking to buy or sell, links below to make it super easy. So pricing starts from around £21,500 here in the UK, which is quite steep admittedly, but it comes with a new 1.5 litre engine, which is the full hybrid drivetrain, and that's the only choice. 116 horsepower. A WLTP is around 75 mpg, somewhere around there, so that is actually really impressive. And I have been achieving sort of early to mid 70s in lots of driving situations, so it's not far-fetched at all. It really is that efficient. 0 to 60 can be had in under 10 seconds, which is a massive improvement over the previous generation. Lots of city cars like this are sort of in the 13, 14, 15 seconds to 60 category, which I believe now is dangerously slow in terms of if you're taking it out on the motorway, pulling away from junctions, when you're surrounded by EVs and that kind of thing. So this has much more shove and is more efficient. So it's a massive, massive improvement. And it's nice to see that these city cars are getting these options now. The drivetrain is super smooth around town. It just means that you're using that electric motor when you're away from the lights at low speeds and that kind of thing. That CVT is also a new electronic based CVT transmission, so it uses electric motors rather than belt driven, which does make it also smoother and feel a little bit less strained. So this hybrid drivetrain means that it's got 44 horsepower more than the previous generation, which is a massive uplift. That's like 50% more power pretty much. The standard Icon model features 17-inch alloys, a 7-inch driver display, a 9-inch infotainment screen with auto aircon, adaptive cruise and the assist systems, USB-C ports and that kind of thing, so fairly basic. The higher trims such as the design add LED headlights, wireless phone charging and push button start, some extra sound insulation as well, which I think is definitely necessary. The XL has a 10.5-inch infotainment system, so a bigger screen, heated seats and parking sensors, and the GR Sport that I have here has some slightly firmer sport tuned suspension, GR specific styling and alloys, so new front bumper, grille, alloys, that kind of thing. For this top end GR Sport though, you're looking at £27,000, plus there are a few packs such as the premium pack, which has a canvas sliding roof and JBL audio system at £1,350. I think the roof would help because it's a little bit dingy in the cabin, but the audio system as standard is pretty good. I think considering Kia have taken away the turbo option from the Picanto and Hyundai have done the same thing with their small cars, this is actually really compelling now, because this goes up against stuff like the MG3 with its full hybrid drivetrain to make a really smooth and punchy experience around town. And these aren't that heavy either, because they're not electric. They weigh just over 1,100 kilos, so quite a nippy little car, and having some slight extra ride height, although adds to the body roll slightly, with this firmer suspension means it's still fairly agile. Obviously the entry level trim will be much more basic than this, but in this GR, guys, I think this looks the part. This is in mustard metallic, and you'll notice it's got this two-tone as well, and the two-tone is sensational in the sunlight. I'll see if I can get some shots of it for you here. It's got this absolutely glorious metallic flake in it, which pops in the sun, even on the black segments of the car, and I think it looks fantastic. And then you've got the metallic mustard as well. It's just quite a good looking car, isn't it? In the GR trims, what they tend to do is make everything a little bit more sharp. You've got this gloss black front area here with the GR badge down here in the corner, and you have this really nice sharp LED light design, which you can see now makes a huge difference. These LED running lights with the indicators in there as well, and your LED lights which kind of blend into this front grille area. It's not really a grille, but you can kind of see that it blends in with the kind of the dash pattern, which is really nice. And yeah, I think the gloss black definitely helps. These kind of extra areas down here where the fog lights are definitely looks the part on this GR trim, and the GR wheels definitely help as well. They're kind of this machined diamond cut finish. They've got a really nice look to them, and yeah, the tyres are still going to be relatively cheap, because even though they're 18s, they're quite skinny. So this mini Bumblebee format, this nice new styling, and this new self-charging hybrid drivetrain, Honey, I Shrunk the Prius is coming to mind, although we've got Aygo X emblem on the side there. And then as we head down, it's very typical Aygo in terms of its actual design. You kind of notice very similar to previous generations, and also has the same kind of side profile, the same compact nature, as well as at the back as well. You can see kind of a similar shape to the previous generation, no major changes really. At the back it's kind of got quite a wide stance, which I think helps. One piece glass boot area, as you come to expect on these compact cars from Toyota. And then down the bottom, a small tailpipe, which is a real tailpipe, which is always a good start. And then you've got some parking sensors down there as well, which are angled appropriately, and some LED rear lights. So it's definitely kind of been facelifted and improved a little bit, but it's the same recipe as the previous generation pretty much in terms of shape and styling. It's just got that really new front end to match all of their newer cars and all of the Toyota electric stuff that's coming out. So heading inside the Aygo then, we've got the button for the unlock on the driver's door. This one has some colour matched PPF as well, some inside the door there and some on the edge. And as we head inside, it is a pretty basic interior. This one is improved being the GR model, so you'll notice we've got some sports seats here, but it is a fairly basic interior, and this is noticeable. You know, at this price point, I do think this is a little bit disappointing in terms of material quality and stuff like that. So for example, obviously we've got this color match segment on the door, and then all of this is scratchy plastic up here, all quite poor quality, all a little bit flexible. And we do have a large door pocket, to be fair, which is always a good touch. Super basic window function, so the two there, and some manual door lock, and then your mirror controls there, but it is really basic. No padding for your elbows or anything like that. And as we head in, the theme continues. So lots and lots of scratchy plastics everywhere, nothing really super high quality to touch, unfortunately, which I understand in this segment, but it's expensive for this segment. These seats are really nice, however. These are the GR seats, so these are specific to the GR Sport model. And they've even got a little Aygo X emblem on the side of them there, and they've got this kind of nice additional pattern. They are manual seats though, as you can see, so nothing too exciting, but they have this kind of suede style material, which makes them look a little bit more sporty. But yeah, that's kind of the only super nice touch on the interior. Everything else feels a little bit cheap for this price point. So inside then, what you'll notice is that the visibility at the front is a little bit limited. So it's quite a small windscreen, and it's quite a dark headliner in the GR model, so it is a little bit gloomy in here. As we look around though, it is kind of all scratchy plastics and this kind of really bulbous shape on the dash here, which is quite bizarre really. It's just a little bit again, just a little bit cheaper than you would expect at this price point. And this gear lever is nice. It's a traditional gear lever. Again, it's got like a big chunky button on the back. You've got your park, reverse, neutral, drive, and then B, which is your braking mode. So this is more of like a engine braking mode to get some more regen, and you can go right down into that if you want to, so that's nice. You've got wireless phone charging in this model here as well. Your heated seat buttons, which are the old school clicky ones, which is quite cool. 2 USB-Cs and power, and some physical climate controls, which is always welcome. So just a normal toggle dial there with an auto button. You've got an off button, which I appreciate. You can also split it as well, and you've got some filtering and that kind of thing, which is a nice touch. Power button in this area here, and then down here we've just got some basic controls such as your drive mode select. There is eco, normal and power. Traction control off, EV mode, which works at low speeds if you've got enough charge, and then your auto hold and your parking brake. What is nice though is when you're in drive and then you put it back into park, the parking brake automatically comes on, which is a good touch in my opinion. Steering wheel is quite nice as well. So this one is the GR Sport one, of course, but it has some kind of physical buttons for everything. So you've got volume on this side, track skip on this side. You've got all of your sort of ADAS and cruise control stuff here, and then some controls for the screens and so on. So this one controls this display here. So as we go forward, you can see that I can cycle through. So at the moment it's showing my average MPG, but I can also show like the ADAS controls. I can show what's playing on the audio, current drive information, and also kind of do some basics with the settings and stuff like that. So you can kind of just cycle through that on the steering wheel, which is nice and easy to use. And you do have just a central screen here, which doesn't really change or do anything. It just shows you your drive mode, kind of where you are in the power band, speed, and that kind of thing. It's simple, effective. It's not a great display, but it does the trick. And to the sides you've just got your fuel gauge, which you won't see budging very much, and then your temperature gauge on the left. So quite nice and simple layout. Everything is quite nicely damped, so you'll notice that everything feels pretty good, and the steering wheel, like the actual quality of it, is really nice. These are these sort of rotating balls, so you can have them open or shut. And then you've also got some basic controls down here for your mirrors, electric mirrors on this one, and your auto lights and so on. So it's fairly straightforward layout. A lot of the other stuff is done through this central screen. So you've got navigation, you've got Apple CarPlay built in here, Android Auto, which is wireless, which is a nice touch. You have to go into the music menu to do any of your alterations to your EQ, but it works pretty well. It's very basic though, so it just shows you basic information, telephone. There's not really any apps or anything particularly interesting in here. It's just literally got a few customizations to do with your lights and things like that, but there's no like ambient lighting or anything in here. It is kind of what you see is what you get. I've not even got an armrest here in this center area, which is quite a disappointment. Visibility though is quite good, you'll be glad to know. Visibility out the back is okay. Large C-pillar is your only issue, but you do get quite a commanding view out because it's not very far away and it's quite a flat back, and then the mirrors are good as well, which is a good thing because the reverse camera is not. When I put it into reverse, you'll see this is possibly the worst quality reverse cam I've seen in a modern car. It is truly terrible. Absolutely terrible, but I'm glad it's here because it's still handy to have, even if it's not very good. So yeah, overall, the design and layout is okay. This also only has tilt, no telescope, so I can't pull this towards me. So even though I can get the seat up quite high to a nice driving position, even though I've got enough space for my legs at 6 foot and still enough headroom as well, as you can see, it's not actually too bad. In terms of the ergonomics, this is quite a stretch away from me because of the fact that I can't pull it out or push it in. That's a bit of a miss. Oh, I forgot the glove box as well, which it's not soft close, but pretty decent space in there for a small car like this. A lot of SUVs don't have that much space these days. I am being quite harsh on it just because of the price, but in the city segment, this is a very acceptable cabin, and the proof is in the way this thing drives. The way this thing drives is really what makes the car. So heading into the back of the Aygo X then, you'll notice the doors come right towards the back of the car, which is always quite handy, but they are quite difficult to get in and out of because they don't open very wide. And you'll see that rear legroom is somewhat limited back here because of the subcompact size, and at least there is a good angle on the seats, which means that if you can fit in the back here, it's not going to be too bad in terms of thigh support, which is always good. And there are ISOFIX points back here, of course. These are kind of the kind though that are just tucked underneath the seat. There is a little reinforced fabric area though, so it shouldn't be too bad in terms of wear and tear, because it's got that extra little bit under there. So that's a nice touch from Toyota. But again, just remind you, this one nearly £30,000, and oh yes, we have push open rear windows like a caravan. And then you have to injure yourself putting them back. Lovely. So stepping into the back of the Aygo X. Now, this is where it gets a little bit problematic for me at 6 foot, because behind my own driving position, I can barely squeeze in, which obviously isn't ideal. I could probably push this seat a tiny bit forward, and obviously for a shorter driver, it wouldn't be too bad, but I am squished in here. And you can see from this seat here, there is a little bit more leeway if you're kind of moving your seat a little bit forward, but Yeah, it is cramped, and it is a strict two-seater back here as well. There's no middle seat at all because there's large centre console area, obviously houses some of the mechanics, but also the vents for the batteries as well to keep everything cool because they're housed under these rear seats. So, I mean, I could get away with sitting back here for sure if there was to be a little bit more legroom, and actually headroom I'm pretty much touching, but it's not as bad as you might think. Getting in and out is fairly easy though, thanks to the ride height. Yeah, for large adult passengers, definitely a no-go, but obviously you can do a short journey at a push and the kiddies will be fine back here. It's nice that there are rear doors though, because I do remember a time when all these cars were 3-door. Do you remember that? That was just a pain, wasn't it? And the cargo area then, nice and simple, still got this glass rear panel and a super easy and flexible parcel shelf. All you got to do is unhook it from these little metal clips, and then it just unhooks using these little elastic clips from here and here, and then the whole thing comes right out, and it is just a sort of flexible kind of bit of fabric, so you can quite easily store that somewhere. Although it doesn't fold, it's solid in the middle, so you can kind of compact it like that, but you can't actually like fold it at all. So to store it somewhere you'd have to kind of like jimmy it underneath the floor or put it on the back seat or something, but it is super thin, so it means that it is actually really easy to do so. So just to give you an idea of space with something in there in the cargo area, this is my normal camera bag that fits like a 15-inch laptop. So with the cargo cover removed as well, you can see it is quite a deep space, but obviously there's a massive load lip, you can't just slide things in. That's absolutely normal for this class of car though. I wouldn't expect anything different. What you will notice though is you have to manually put down these rear seats, so it's just a pull tab and then you just push the whole thing forward, and it's got like a metal back to it. In my driving position that will not go down, and then this side, and there we go, push that forward. That's the sort of area that it will create if you can actually get the seat all the way down as well. So there's a large lip there, so again not ideal for larger items. However, as you can see, the opening is pretty tall and a reasonable shape, so to get larger items in there, not too bad. It's just obviously being a short wheelbase car, you're not going to fit too much long stuff in there, but you know, for the size of the car, it is a reasonable space. I wouldn't complain too much about it. There's no particularly special features, but there is a little bit of a gap under the floor, so you can see there's some stuff to organise in there with like your wheel locks and stuff like that. These seats are super easy to pull back up as well, which is nice. They just lock into place, and the seat belts don't snag, which is always a nice touch. And you've got a little light back here and some basic sort of shopping hooks and things like that. Nothing too crazy, but they could have completely skipped on that, and they didn't. So props to Toyota for leaving those additions in. And generally for a tiny sort of compact car like this, it's not a terrible space to work with. Now, I know I've been quite critical on the Aygo X, but it's for the reason of that price point. However, what it does really excel at is the smoothness of the driving and how it feels out on the road. So let's get to it then. Right, I'm going to switch the car into its power mode, which is effectively like a sport mode, utilises the engine a little bit more, and we're going to give it a bit of a 0 to 60 run coming out of here. Let's go. Can hear the CVT whirring away, and there's 60. It's actually pretty brisk off the line, and there was no like wheel hop or craziness there either. Even at this sort of speed, to be fair, 50, put my foot down, yeah, it takes a second to kick in, but you do get that little bit of electric shove as well, which is quite nice. If I stick it back down into eco mode, which is your standard drive mode, then things do become a little bit more muted. It takes a little bit longer for it to kick in that engine, and you can feel the electric motors whirring away that little bit more, so it's a bit more of a pleasant day-to-day experience. At the moment I've got it in the drive mode as well, so just a normal drive gearbox mode on the CVT, and it drives pretty much like a traditional car. But if I whack it down into B, which is the braking mode, it's got more of a regen effect, so when I come off the throttle it starts to brake ever so slightly, and you just notice it kicking in, which just helps with that regen a little bit. It's definitely not going to compare to like one pedal driving in an electric car, but you know, it still provides a nicer experience. Yes, the uphill, the previous cars would have really struggled, but in this, no problem at all. It does sound a little bit gruff and loud, but you know, it's kind of to be expected with a really small engine. Unfortunately though, at these kind of speeds like 60 mph plus, this is when you just lose a bit of that refinement. You can tell it's a smaller, cheaper car because it's got that kind of rough sound from that little engine. You can hear that it's revving quite high, and also there's quite a bit of noise from outside the cabin. You get a little bit of tyre noise. You can just kind of hear the car working away, so it's not the best experience for your motorway cruising. Although you do have a decent amount of sort of ADAS systems that aren't very intrusive, thankfully, and you can just do the adaptive cruise on the steering wheel here, works pretty well. The steering can feel a tad light on the motorway as well. You get a little bit of sway and that kind of thing, especially because this is a slightly taller car. But when you're pottering around town and at lower speeds, I'm now doing about 40 miles an hour, this is when it really comes into its own, because you can feel that it uses the electric power a lot more frequently. It doesn't really even notice when you kick between the two, because of that CVT transmission. It's effectively only one gear with a sort of infinite ratio, so as you're kind of stamping on it a little bit, you feel a little bit of shove from the electric motor, that torque initially, and then the engine kicks in, but the gearbox makes it a really smooth transition. There's no kind of jolting or jerking, you don't feel any gear changes, there's nothing like that at all. And whereas other cars in this segment have a mild hybrid system that might provide a tiny little boop off the line with the electric motor, this can go into full EV mode when it's got enough power to do so. So there's a button down here for that. It's saying at the moment the battery is too low to go into EV mode. But then when I'm going downhill and coasting and stuff, and when I'm just cruising along at really low speed, it kicks into EV mode anyway. So it just depends on your situation. Obviously, it's not going to be quite as good as a plug-in hybrid in terms of efficiency, especially because on those you can now potter around for probably 50 miles plus in the best ones. This doesn't have that, but what it does have is just the ability to just shove some petrol in it and go and get incredible economy. In terms of that economy figure, now 70 mpg plus is an incredible claim, and I must say around town, because of the amount that this goes into that electric mode, I am actually achieving that. It's super impressive and really buttery smooth at low speed. But on the motorway, again, things get a little bit more rough and it has to use that engine a little bit more. And as a result, I've been achieving around 50 to 55 mpg. Still not bad at all though, is it really? So kick down here. Well, it doesn't kick down obviously because we've got a CVT, but CVT is kicking in and up to speed very quickly, although it does make a little bit of a fuss about it. That being said though, it is still miles quicker than the previous generation and a lot better than lots of other cars in this size segment. Small city cars normally have really rubbish drivetrains, but that is changing slowly but surely. I think the other car that is really worth looking out for in this segment is the MG3. There has been some safety concerns about those recently, so watch out when you're buying used to make sure it's had all recalls and things like that. However, that is a faster car than this one because it's got a bigger electric motor. It's got a 3-speed auto box and around 200 horsepower, so definitely faster than this and also smooth around town. Yeah, at sort of 50-55 mile an hour I am now, there is just a little bit more engine noise than I would like, but it's not really a deal breaker. And in fairness, the stereo system in this is actually quite good. So I'll just turn that up a little bit and ignore it. But in its power mode then, the sportiest setting, I'm going to take it on a little bit more of a dynamic drive and see what it's all about. Because as a taller car, you expect it to have a little bit of body roll and stuff like that, even though it is a small hatch. But I just want to see how responsive it is and how it feels. So let's chuck it into this roundabout then. Too much power. Whoa. Quite a bit of understeer. It's a little bit disconcerting because as you apply the power in the corner, it kind of starts to feel like it's toppling a little bit, and it starts to understeer quite dramatically, so you don't have an awful lot of control. But that is quite an extreme situation. It's just that there are definitely rivals out there that will handle that a little bit better, the MG3 included. There's a lot of wind whistle coming from up somewhere near the roof as well, bizarrely. Right, let's chuck it in down some country lanes then and see what it's all about. I'm going to go left-hander here. This road is, whoa, yeah, a little bit of, it kind of washes out a little bit of understeer. But it does feel quite planted in a way. Even though there is some body roll, it feels like you kind of know what the front end is doing. So regardless of any kind of understeering and stuff like that, I've got enough steering texture to kind of know what the tyres are up to, which is quite reassuring. Some cars are a bit more numb than that now. And it's just interesting because as you plant the throttle and that sort of electric motor kicks in first, you kind of feel like the car wants to understeer, and then the engine kicks in and the computers kind of correct themselves and it kind of starts to behave a little bit more. Yeah, going down a slightly more challenging road now, and the suspension does a decent job, to be fair. In cars like this, you often expect it to be really crashy. This isn't really like that. This kind of feels a little bit more plush than you might expect for a car of this size in this segment. If you come from like an older Aygo or something like that, you know, Citroen C1, one of those small cars, Peugeot 107, this is going to feel a little bit nicer on the old bottom, I think, when it comes to going over some of those imperfections and potholes in the road, which is always a nice touch. And obviously the extra ride height is beneficial as well for some people. Getting in and out of the car is just a little bit easier, and also you get a bit more of a commanding view, and yeah, just a little bit nicer overall, isn't it? The tight right-handed turning circle is really good, as you would expect for a car of this size. It's not going to win any awards for being a really dynamic and engaging experience, but it can hold its own on a B-road bash like this, so you can't really grumble too much, can you? This is a true test now of the Aygo's turning circle as I come across a blockage on the road. This actually, though, I have to say, even though this reversing camera is truly terrible, I've got a good view out. The steering is super light and manoeuvrable at low speeds, and then as we pull away, yeah, that electric shove off the line, really nice. I'm up to 30 straight away, no issues. Let's put it back down into eco mode so it quietens down a little bit. But obviously, being a bit lighter than an EV is a little bit more nimble as well, which is always pleasant. Let's give the brakes a go. Hybrid brakes, sometimes a little bit iffy. Wow, really good actually, really good. You do get a little bit of judder under extreme load, but I'm impressed with that. Some EVs and some hybrids they just go a bit spongy under your foot, but this isn't one of those. Pottering along at 30 mile an hour like you're going to be doing most of the time around town, it's just sublime. It's just a really, really nice and really smooth experience. You're not going to have any drama at all. And the beauty is when you come to those lower speeds sitting in traffic, even though it's not got the luxury of one pedal drive like in an EV, it's still going to be super smooth and engaging. I used to dread getting in small cars to review them because they just always feel like a bag of nails compared to the modern stuff that's electric, or you know, your bigger luxury cars and your big family segment SUVs. But the gap has closed and this doesn't feel like that anymore. Even though it can feel a little bit rough when you're planting it because of the CVT gearbox, it is still better than older belt-driven CVT systems for sure. And when you're doing low speeds, you're really not going to notice it. It's ideal for that because you don't get any gear change jerks. And combined with the fact that this obviously has a reasonable amount of power now and a good amount of shove and torque off the line thanks to the electric portion of the hybrid drivetrain, it's a super efficient and super refined system to use. But it does pose a little bit of a problem because in this little chassis, in this little body with this interior, it's a very refined power plant in a not so refined space. So it's a little bit of a shame. I think on the used market, or with good finance contributions and so on, it could be a really good proposition. But at retail, it's just too much money. Even though it is a good little car, there's just so much more that you can get for that sort of cash out there at the moment. So it's really hard to recommend one of these new, even though I do quite like it. What it is though is a good exercise in showing that small segment cars can still exist in the modern world with all these EVs surrounding them, and petrol engines can be super efficient if you do it correctly. And it just goes to show that not everyone has to have a massive SUV. A lot of people still want these little cars. So it's great that Toyota is still putting development and time into them. It's just a shame that it's not quite as accessible as it used to be. But I wouldn't settle until you've driven the rivals. But that's it from me today. Thank you so much to Toyota for sending me out the car. I really do appreciate it. And thank you guys for watching. All your likes, comments, subscriptions, it all goes such a long way. So thank you so much for watching. Check out the channel for all of the rival cars and all that good stuff. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.